She didn't like that we had a rain gauge out front. Said it was a bit much. So I added a label that said, Official Neighborhood Precipitation Monitoring Unit. Now people stop and check it. Including her. I live in a quiet neighborhood in Asheville, North Carolina, known for its tree-lined streets and well-kept gardens. My husband, Ethan, and I have always enjoyed tending to our small front yard, nurturing a variety of plants and flowers. To help with our gardening, we installed a simple rain gauge to monitor the local rainfall. One afternoon, while I was weeding the flower beds, I noticed our neighbor, Mrs. Gertrude, Trudy Simmons, approaching. Trudy had lived on Maple Street for over 30 years and was known for her meticulous lawn and strong opinions about the neighborhood's appearance. "Hello, dear," Trudy greeted, her eyes fixed on the rain gauge. "I couldn't help but notice that device in your yard. Don't you think it's a bit much?" I looked at the rain gauge and then back at Trudy. "Oh, the rain gauge? Ethan and I use it to keep track of rainfall for our garden. It's quite helpful." Trudy pursed her lips. "I understand, but it does stand out. Perhaps you could move it to the backyard? We wouldn't want the neighborhood to start resembling a science experiment." I smiled politely. "We'll consider it." A few days later, Ethan and I attended the monthly neighborhood association meeting at the community center. During the meeting, Trudy stood up and addressed the group. "I've noticed some additions to front yards that may not align with our community's standards," she said, her eyes briefly meeting mine. "We should all strive to maintain the charm and uniformity of our neighborhood." Ethan squeezed my hand under the table, sensing my frustration. After the meeting, as we walked home, he said, "She's really fixated on that rain gauge." "It's ridiculous," I replied. "It's not harming anyone." Ethan thought for a moment. "What if we make it look more official? Maybe then she'll back off." The next day, we created a small sign that read, "Official Neighborhood Precipitation Monitoring Unit." We attached it to the rain gauge, ensuring it looked authoritative. To our surprise, the sign attracted attention. Neighbors began stopping by to check the rainfall measurements. Some even thanked us for providing the information, noting how it helped them with their own gardening. Even Trudy couldn't resist. One morning, I saw her pause during her walk, glance at the gauge, and nod approvingly before continuing on. Encouraged by the positive response, Ethan suggested organizing a community event focused on local weather patterns. We collaborated with the community center to host a talk by a meteorologist from the National Weather Service. The event was well attended, with many neighbors expressing interest in understanding precipitation patterns. Trudy approached me after the talk. "I must admit, I misjudged your rain gauge," she said with a smile. "It's become quite the asset to our community." "Thank you, Trudy," I replied. "We're glad it's been helpful." From that day forward, the rain gauge stood proudly in our front yard, not just as a tool for our garden, but as a symbol of community engagement and the unexpected ways we can come together, even over something as simple as measuring rain. Things didn't stay friendly for long. About a week after the neighborhood event, I noticed something strange. The rain gauge had been moved. Not far, just a few inches, but enough that I knew it hadn't been the wind or some random bump. The base wasn't sitting flat anymore. It was tilted, crooked, like someone had yanked it and then thought twice. I didn't say anything at first. Maybe a kid? Maybe a jogger brushed past it? I straightened it and went inside. The next morning, it was gone. I walked outside with my coffee and stood frozen in the middle of the front yard, staring at the empty patch of dirt where our official neighborhood precipitation monitoring unit used to be. The small stake that held the sign was snapped in half like a twig. I called Ethan, who was already at work. He didn't sound surprised. "I had a feeling this might happen," he said. "Check Trudy's yard." I didn't want to believe it. But I did check. And there it was, tucked behind her perfectly trimmed hydrangeas, half hidden behind a garden gnome, was our rain gauge. The sign was missing, but the cylinder was unmistakable. Ours had a small crack on the bottom where I'd dropped it once unloading groceries. That same crack was staring at me from behind her bushes. She stole it. I knocked on her door. She opened it with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Oh, good morning. I'm missing something," I said, calm but firm. "Looks like it ended up in your yard." She didn't even blink. "Is that so? I'd like it back." "I don't have it. It's behind your bushes." She narrowed her eyes. "I don't know what you're accusing me of, but I'd appreciate it if you didn't snoop around my property." That's when I realized what this was. It wasn't about the rain gauge. It was control. It was the fact that she didn't like losing. She didn't like that people liked the gauge. She didn't like that I ignored her opinion. Ethan and I went to the neighborhood association president, Mr. Brody. Retired firefighter, old school, no nonsense. I showed him a photo I took of the gauge behind her hydrangeas. He rubbed his jaw and said, "I'll talk to her." The next day, the gauge was back. No note. No apology. But it had been cleaned, wiped down like it had never been touched. And the sign? Broken in half, taped together, and stuffed in our mailbox. It should have ended there. But Trudy escalated. First, she started posting on the neighborhood forum. Subtle jabs about unsightly yard decorations. Then someone anonymously reported us for unapproved fixtures on the lawn. We got a letter from the city. Had to fill out forms. Pay a small fee to register it. Ethan was furious. "This is harassment." We put up cameras. 2 nights later, we caught her on footage walking her dog. She didn't do anything at first, just stopped near the edge of our yard. Stared at the gauge like it had insulted her. Then she walked away. The next morning, someone had poured motor oil into our flower bed. Killed half my tulips. We showed the footage to the police, but it didn't show her doing that. No proof. Just suspicion. I stopped being polite after that. I put the sign back up. Bigger this time. Laminated. Bright yellow letters, Official Neighborhood Precipitation Monitoring Unit. Approved by City. Do not touch. She saw it. She said nothing. Then we started getting visitors. People from other blocks. Kids on bikes. Retirees walking their dogs. They'd stop, read the gauge, and snap a photo. Some even waved. Trudy hated every second. One evening, Ethan and I were sitting on the porch when she came storming across the street with a piece of paper. "This," she said, waving it at me, "is not over. You've made a joke of this neighborhood." I took the paper. A petition. Maybe 5 names. Demanding we take the gauge down. She snatched it back before I could respond and stormed off. That night, Ethan leaned in close and whispered, "You know what would really set her off?" "What?" "Let's build a weather board." He wasn't kidding. He pulled out scrap wood from the garage. Built a small standing board with rotating dials, rainfall today, rainfall this week, forecast predictions pulled from a local station. We updated it every morning. And people loved it. Next, I added QR codes for local weather stations. Ethan printed tiny flyers. "Want your own rain gauge? Ask us how." We became a thing. And Trudy? She got quieter. But I knew she wasn't done. Not by a long shot. A few weeks passed. Things calmed down on the surface. Trudy stopped glaring every time she passed. Her posts on the neighborhood forum got less frequent. For a second, I thought maybe she was just tired of it all. But Trudy doesn't stop. She plots. One morning I opened my email and found a message from the city. Subject: City Code violation. Unlicensed weather display structure. Attached was a blurry photo of our weather board, taken from across the street. Same photo also appeared in a new thread on the forum. Is this really legal? What's next? Traffic lights in our driveways. No one had even complained about it before. Ethan was livid. She's weaponizing the city against us. We filed an appeal, invited a city inspector to come check the setup. The guy came out, friendly, seemed more curious than concerned. Took some pictures, looked it over, then shrugged and said, honestly, this is way more educational than problematic. You should see the backyard observatories I've had to inspect. We passed. No fines. No takedown order. The report even called it a helpful community feature. We posted that part of the report on the weather board. Laminated. Right next to the rain gauge. That same night, our mailbox was smashed with a bat. Neighbors saw it. One of them had a camera that caught the tail end of a figure walking away in a trench coat. Too dark to see clearly. No plate number. But the outline? The walk? I knew who it was. Still no proof. Just suspicion. Trudy went quiet again. Too quiet. Then, without warning, a for sale sign popped up in her yard. She was moving. I didn't know whether to celebrate or worry. The neighborhood buzzed with rumors. Someone said she was moving closer to her daughter in Raleigh. Another neighbor claimed she was forced out by legal issues. No one really knew. But just as suddenly as she'd made war over a rain gauge, she packed up and disappeared. The morning after the moving truck left, I stepped outside to update the rainfall total. Something was wedged under the base of the gauge. I bent down and picked it up. It was a note. Written in neat, tight handwriting. Enjoy your little kingdom. You haven't won. You just haven't seen the end yet. No name. But I didn't need one. A week later, weird things started happening. Packages stopped showing up. USPS confirmed they were delivered. But they were gone before we got them. Then one morning we found tire tracks on our lawn. Deep ones, someone had driven up through the yard and peeled off. No damage, but clear intention. We installed better cameras. Floodlights. Got the city to put up a "No Trespassing" sign on the edge of our yard, even though it was overkill. Just for show. Then Ethan's work laptop got hacked. We couldn't trace how. IT said it looked like phishing. But it happened 2 days after we got another anonymous message through our mailbox: nice data you're collecting. Wonder what else you're monitoring. This wasn't just petty anymore. This was calculated. I started asking around. A few neighbors admitted Trudy had been calling people before she left, asking questions, dropping hints. Trying to dig up dirt on us. One of them, Mark from 3 doors down, said she asked if Ethan ever did work on government contracts. Another neighbor, Susan, said Trudy warned her about spying tools disguised as yard decorations. Trudy hadn't given up. She'd just gone underground. Ethan got serious. He contacted a friend of his from college who worked in cybersecurity. We swept our home network. Installed firewalls. Checked the cameras for backdoors. It was quiet for a few weeks after that. But we both knew that kind of quiet wasn't peace. It was set up. And sure enough, one evening just after sunset, a black SUV parked across the street. Windows tinted. No plates. Sat there for hours. Didn't move. I called the non-emergency line. By the time the cruiser showed up, the SUV was gone. The officer said he'd keep an eye out, but that was it. The next morning, someone had poured sugar into Ethan's gas tank. That was thousands of dollars in damage. And even though the cameras caught the motion, the person wore gloves, a mask, a hoodie. No identifying features. Just deliberate, practiced movement. This wasn't random. Trudy wasn't just a bitter neighbor. She was playing a long game. And she was still playing it from a distance. The rain gauge? Still up. The board? Still updated every day. But now, it didn't feel fun anymore. It felt like bait. Ethan and I stopped sleeping through the night. Every sound outside made us jump. I kept one eye on the security feed whenever I worked from home. Ethan even got a dashcam for both our cars. We weren't paranoid anymore, we were prepared. But even preparation doesn't stop everything. A month after the sugar in the gas tank incident, Ethan got a call from HR. His company was under internal review for a possible leak. Someone had submitted an anonymous tip claiming he was sharing restricted data from home. They cited his recent network activity. Accused him of unsafe practices. They suspended him while they investigated. He was gutted. I was furious. We knew it was her. She had to have planted something. Or maybe she just sent enough fabricated evidence to throw suspicion. Either way, it worked. And here's where I admit something. I made a mistake. I went online. I created an anonymous burner account. And I posted everything. Photos, notes, video stills of her taking the rain gauge. Descriptions of the stalking, the mailbox, the SUV. I didn't name her, but I didn't have to. Anyone from the area would know exactly who I meant. It went viral in our city subreddit. Local Facebook pages picked it up. People called her unhinged. A few defended her, but most didn't. One comment said, "She's pulled this before. She tried to get my brother's small business shut down because she didn't like his window decals." 2 days later, her daughter showed up at our house. She was shaking, visibly upset. Her name was Mara. She begged us to take the posts down. "She's sick," she said. "She's not right anymore. She's been spiraling ever since Dad died. She thought she had control over her world and then, she trailed off. She's staying with me now," Mara said. "But she saw the posts. She's threatening to sue everyone. I just need you to stop." I looked her dead in the eye. "Your mother tried to ruin my husband's life. She broke the law. She harassed us for over a year. And she's still playing games. Tell me why I should care now." Mara didn't have an answer. Ethan got cleared 2 weeks later. No wrongdoing found. But the damage was done. His trust in his company cracked. His name now quietly associated with the word investigation. He didn't want revenge. But I did. I went full public. No more burner account. I wrote a long, detailed post under my name. Included a timeline, redacted evidence, real legal documents, police reports. I framed it as a warning about how neighbor disputes can turn dangerous. I didn't need to call her out. The city figured it out. She lost everything. HOA removed her from all committees. Her name got dragged online in every local thread. Her old church, the one she once helped lead fundraising events for, quietly cut ties. The final blow? I found a lawyer. We filed for damages. We had evidence of property destruction, harassment, defamation. Mara tried to intervene. Tried to mediate. But by then, it was already rolling. The court forced a settlement. It wasn't much. A few thousand. But it came with a permanent restraining order and a public admission of wrongdoing on record. I framed it. Hung it on the wall next to the rain gauge. It's still out front. Still labeled. Official Neighborhood Precipitation Monitoring Unit. Every time it rains, people stop and check it. Some still take photos. We've even had a few school kids interview us for weather projects. Sometimes I see Mara driving through the neighborhood. She doesn't stop. Just looks at the house. She never comes back. And Trudy? No one's heard from her in months. Maybe she finally realized not everyone's going to follow her rules. Or maybe she's out there, waiting. Either way, I'm not taking that rain gauge down. Ever.